Hola amigos and amigas. It is lesson 5. We are looking at the socialization agent of media and peers in the one today. First off, we're going to start with peers. So, peers are a powerful socialization agent because they provide the adolescent, so adolescent meaning young person or teenager, with the most dynamic opportunity to explore the social world outside of the primary socialization agent, the family. So, what we mean by dynamic, the word dynamic means that something's always changing, or that it's kind of full of energy. So, being dynamic is it's changing and full of energy. So, peers are very much about that because it provides you with a lot of opportunity to explore life outside of what it was like in your household, and that's really significant as you grow up because if you think most of your socialization period is within the family and the household, pretty much from the ages of 0 probably up until the start of high school, you are typically fairly stable in that you spend most of your time with your family. That if you do have any engagement with peers or friends, it's very heavily moderated when you're younger. So some parents don't enforce sleepovers until the high school age. You might not have access to a phone until then. It's a lot more moderated. Like your playtimes with other kids when you're 5 or 6, the birthday parties go for an hour or two max because kids can't retain that much attention span for a while. So the exposure creeps up, but it's only really at high school where the sort of reins let loose and you go through in your high school period a lot more dynamic change, and you go through it a lot quicker than you did with your 0 to 12 or 13 age group sort of normal changes there. So it's a huge influence, and it grows, what we would say, because of everything I've just explained, it grows exponentially. So it gets bigger and bigger. So exponentially means that something increases almost, if you were to visualize it, let's say, 2 times 2, actually, no, that analogy I've used before, whereas if you get $1 in one day, and then you double that, and then it's $2, and then you double that, it's $4, double that, $8, $16, 32, 64. So it starts really small, 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32, but then it starts getting bigger, 64, 108, 216, I think that's right, and then it gets bigger, 432, so it just exponentially grows, right? And that's sort of the rate at which you're exposed to your peers in your high school journey. Guys at this stage are probably a lot less reliant on your parents than you used to be. Some of you might be in a lot of conflict with your parents, you might not be agreeing with everything they do, so the relationship changes and it's dynamic. So peers are almost kind of sometimes can be that second family. So after family, oftentimes they are the next most exposed and important agent in socializing your identity. Peers, being a source of influence outside the family, also provides adolescents with a new sense of social identity. So segueing to what I was just talking about, this can include a shared style of clothing, music, interests, and language. So you typically start to talk like your friends, dress like your friends, listen to the same stuff as your friends, do the same things as your friends. And again, that just speaks to the power that they can have in your socialization. Adolescence then is a period of trial and error and risk-taking behaviors. So things like doing illegal things that you're not quite age appropriate to do, you start to involve in those risk taking. But not even that, like things like, I'm going to stay past my parents' curfew for tonight by half an hour and see what happens. You're more willing to engage with small risks and then big risks as well, and often they're egged on by that sort of thing we call peer pressure, because most often when you're growing up, a lot of this trial and error and risk taking is often these experiences are with the peer group. And your peers are also responsible for shaping communication and language used by individuals as well. So, with that being done, we've had a bit of a recap of what peers are. Here's an activity I want you to do to engage with that a bit more. So, getting your big boy book out, I want you because this main thing that we've ended on is this idea of communication and language, and that's very, very much shaped by your peers. So I would like you to glue in the slang language table into your big boy book. I have left a copy for it on the library counter for you, or you can come and see me. And I would like you guys to highlight phrases that you are familiar with or that you use. So this table looks something like this. So in the 1920s, there was a slang phrase called 23 skidoo. And if you don't know what that means, that's fine. Some of these I'm learning. Or, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Or, give us a smooch. Or, Big Brother is watching you. That came from the book, George Orwell's book, 1984. Groovy. Do you dig it? So do you like something? The 90s, this is what I grew up with. Diss, get jiggy, homie, my bad, PHAT, fat, was up, word, grew up with the 2000s as well. So I want you to go through each decade, spanning roughly 80 years. And I just want you to, step one is to highlight the phrases that you're familiar with, okay? Step two then, is you'll note that this table ends at 2000s. I want you guys to show me what slang in 2010s looked like, and then I want you to give me one of what 2010 to 2020. So give me that range of slang, and if you want, can you give me a 2021, 2022, 2023 list of slang too? So things like lit, dank, swag, yeet, YOLO, snack, fam, blood. These are words which I use with not really knowing the meaning of, but these are some examples of things I have heard young people like you say. What's another one? No cap. That means, like, I'm not lying. No cap. Or this one where they go like that. That means ice cold, you're cool, calm, collected under pressure. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll stop litting and danking you. So that's the second thing I want you to do. I want you to make a list of those slang terms. The third thing is then I want you to make a list of at least 10 slang terms that are relevant to your own social group. So what are the words that you guys use or things that you say, and write down what they mean. So it could be something like slay queen. That's one. But if you can chuck a few in there that maybe is very unique to your social group, that could be interesting too. And I'll try and guess what they are. And then lastly, I would like you to explain how your peer group has influenced your identity in at least two ways. So there's lots of different ways you can examine that. Anything that we've explained on here could be behavior related, could be peer pressure related, could be the language you use, how you dress, what music you listen to, etc. Now notice here how it says explain. That doesn't mean you just write two things and leave it there. Explain is cause and effect. It's relating ideas between things. It's providing the why and the how. So you're going to have to go into a bit more depth. So if you were to explain to me how your peer group has influenced you to, I don't know, play a certain sport, I wanted examples of that, and I want you to explain the impact of that or the effect of that on your socialization period. What are you more likely to do as a result of being peer pressured into playing a certain sport or whatever? All right? That, my friend, is peers. We are now going to move on to the media. So finish peers, pause me, and then come back. All right, welcome back. Here is the media. Right, so when we talk about media, I'm not just talking about social media. There is a lot of other forms of media out there that shape how you grow up. Social media is very much a very big part of that, and it's probably the form that you spend the most amount of time on. However, it includes other things. So the mass media, so TV, music, social media, movies, gaming, news, I'm sure you can think of a million other things, that maintains a powerful role in our society, because most forms of communication from the macro level to the micro and meso level are done through media, okay? And very typically throughout, as soon as pen and paper was invented, newspapers communicated that. But there's so many different forms of that media type now, that it is a super duper powerful influence on how we grow up. It has the ability to influence our ideas, opinions, attitudes, and perceptions of the micro, meso, and macro world. Now, that can be for good or bad. Like, the thing with having the world at your fingertips and how quickly information comes out that can shape who you are is that a lot of it's unfiltered, it's unmoderated. So there's a lot of dangerous ideas and deep, dark rabbit holes you can get down. But on the other coin, there's a lot of really great, amazing free education resources out there that can help you explore different ideas and opinions. It can bring to light some really cool ways of doing things. Like, you might be really interested in a lot of finding out about a lot of self-help stuff, and there's lots of that kind of good stuff out there through the media. Or you might be really interested in just being entertained and watching dogs do funny things on YouTube. Whatever it is, the media can shape your ideas, opinions, and attitudes about anything, whether it's something as minute and minuscule as dogs are funny and they do goofy things, to really in-depth things of how to live a good life and what I should say in a difficult conversation. There's lots of cool and great information out there, but similarly, it can shape you in a not so good way as well. Alright, second point is technology. Technology drives the mass media communication, and it allows us to engage in content that shapes our actions, opinions, and behaviors, which was sort of just talked about there. It can be good or bad. The thing I want you to do next is to watch this amazing clip by Simon Sinek. Now, it goes for 20 minutes. It is bloody brilliant. Simon Sinek is an entrepreneur. He's very much someone who, at this space now, he has a lot of really good books. If you're interested, he's got 3 or 4. You should read them. They're good. But he's an entrepreneur, and I guess his specialty is leadership and showing others how to lead. But in doing that, he's very knowledgeable on society. He's very knowledgeable on this thing that we've talked about called socialization, and he's sort of an expert in the field of explaining human behavior and why people do things in a way that is very easy to digest and understand. So what he looks at in this interview is what's called the millennial problem, or this millennial crisis, this idea that millennials in the workplace are lazy. They're not driven like past generations. They don't know what they want. They just want beanbags. Or this idea that millennials care too much about everything. So he kind of breaks into all those kind of core stereotypes and unpacks the millennial question, which if you watch the video, you'll find out what it is. After you've done that, I would like you to answer this question. What is Simon saying has changed about the socialization process for millennials? Because how you've grown up, even though you might not be a millennial, many of you actually, I think we are. The term's just been recoined, but I think a lot of what the millennial dilemma is will apply to how you've grown up as well. So putting that answer in there after you've watched the whole of the video is really good. And then you have a quick little summary task to end. And I'm going to explain what this question is. So, to what extent does the media dictate to society, or to what extent does society dictate to the media? So what I mean by that is, do you think that the media dictates to society how we should behave, how we should act, what we should believe in and care about? Or is it society itself and our values that dictate to the media what we think is the right way to live or do or see or whatever it is, and that's why they show that content? Or is it a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. If you're still struggling, come see me. Ciao!